We should just get right into last night, bro, because I've been fucking thinking about it, dude. That was crazy, man.
Yeah, yeah, it was. Yeah, it was, man.
So
There was a lot of stuff going on the undercards that was kind of like foreshadowing. You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
that totally was. So, and honestly, too, I guess if the audience hasn't been like following every single word of every episode, I haven't been around for a bunch of these big fights. So for me, a big part of this episode today is like we're gonna from Canelo Bivol down through the last couple of the last couple of weeks and then into the next couple of weeks. And I figured, who better to do that with than Mr. Triple OG.
yeah.
But so were you surprised by this fight at all?
No, if you remember right, I've been telling people that Vivo was going to beat Canelo, and I know that people were like, oh well, you're just looking for the shocker or whatever. But no, I analyzed this fight. I remember we talked about it early last week, and I was telling you that uh, uh, Dmitry is just not only is he a very technical fighter, he's a very patient fighter. Like he's a guy I've sparred guys like that, and he's a guy that you're not going to force him to do anything. It doesn't matter it's almost like Hopkins if you think about it. It doesn't matter if the crowd's booing, if someone throws a tomato at him or whatever. He's just going to stand there and look at you. And then that actually happened in the fight. I think it was about the sixth round or whatever, where he got off on Canelo really good, and Canelo tried to lure him into the ropes where he could have him in an isolated area and kind of like use those short arms to get some good winding up combinations and hand speed. And he just sat there and was like smirked at him like, nah, like come to the middle of the ring.
That's
And
what's
it,
amazed. That's what kind of what amazed me about Bivol, dude. He's so like immune to anything else that's going on around him. He's so locked into what he's doing that it's like, listen, I'll make this boring for 30 seconds to make a
yeah,
point. Like I'm not falling for your shit. I'm not falling in sloppy. I'm not gonna open up and just
yeah,
give you some shit. Like that's not what he's doing. He's like he's got that hyper discipline, that honestly most guys do not have that. Even at the
yeah,
top, guys, I don't think Plant has it. I don't think Callum Smith has it. I don't think Saunders has it, but he's fucking got it, man.
yeah, yeah. The last person that fought like Bivol, and you can probably see a lot of it in him. And this might have been a little bit before your time, but I'm sure you remember this guy, Lucien Boutte. Lucien Boutte is a very technical guy like that. You're not gonna get him in trouble and everything. But then, like as his career went on, he became an implant there in Canada, so he would want to give the people what they wanted. So they started, like chanting they want him to get rid of somebody or do something. He was trying to take more risks to be more TV acceptable, right? But what Bebo has figured out is that the same thing as Andre Ward figured out. If my dancing partner is the draw and the TV guy, I don't have to be the darling. You know what I'm saying? I'm just gonna fight my fight and win. And that's the only difference between Bivol and Lucien Boutte. But otherwise, like the technical skill, the lead arm, the playing with distance, the being able to change the strategy mid round. Like he went from I watched him fight in spots. I watched him defuse Canelo in some rounds. Like oh okay, this guy has a lot of steam still left. I'm gonna move, but I'm not gonna float and run from him. I'm gonna like step in replace, like pick and replace
Yeah.
his distance, be it lateral or backwards and everything. And I'm not gonna allow him to get me on the ropes because that's 90% of his offense. So
There's part of him too that kind of reminds me of Lara, where Lara's got, the great foot movement, the sense of range. He just didn't have the size that Bivol has and the
yeah,
power to get Canelo's respect in the same way. But I felt like he fought a kind of similar fight where it's like Lara really kept him on the end of the jab, kept it kind of long, would take some body work now and then, you know what I'm saying? But if he got on the ropes, he's spinning off. I felt like Bivol did a really good job of that. It was like, so this was one thing I noticed early in the fight. The first 3-4 rounds, because I thought Canelo won the first 3 or 4. I was surprised actually early in the fight how easily Canelo was closing the gap. So he would close the gap, he would get him on the ropes, and he'd get one or two off. But Bivol would always just kind of spin right off. He wouldn't stay there. And it was almost like he was just getting a feel like, what do you got? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, how
Yeah.
hard do you really hit? And it reminded me, I saw this Shane Mosley interview a couple years back, and he was talking about, when he moved up from welterweight to junior middleweight, when he fought Winky Wright, he was like, when I used to punch guys, it was like it moved them, or
Yeah.
I could feel it impact them, or I would hear it like, ugh. And when I would hit Winky, it was like I hit like a really big heavy bag, and it just died on impact. And it looked like that's what Canelo was going through, bro. It looked like
Yeah.
he was landing his shit, and it was just dying. It was dying on glove. It was dying on like it was a different build of guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 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 And you know what? Another thing that, and I studied war and martial arts like my whole life, since I was a kid and everything. So I can see that also Bivol has some disciplines in some other martial arts besides boxing. You know what I'm saying? The reason being is because he had the H-frame cage defense, right? And that's like you're here, like any fighter can tell you that. But when those punches would come, like a lot of times Canelo gets away with, even if you have your hands up, he's beating your arms and everything. You're absorbing the shock of punches, right? So what would happen was Canelo would go and throw like a wide punch like this, right? And instead of absorbing the whole punch, like Bivol would do something like he would just go like that, right? Now it doesn't seem like much, like to you guys at home, but like if someone's throwing a roundabout punch like this, and I go like that, now instead of that punch going here and like maybe wrapping around and like hitting like a shoulder or something, now because I go out like this at that angle, like almost like in a Western where the guy, in the bar is like blocking with the cuffs of his shirt, right? Like if you do that, now the punch goes here. You see the difference? Now
Yep.
you can't get there. And I saw that happen time and time again, even to the body, like where Canelo was trying to, like, okay, I'm gonna go to this guy's body and kind of chop him down. Like he that cage defense and those little parries like that, like slight stuff, man. But it made him, he had no damage the whole night, pretty much.
Not a whole lot, man. And he would do the high guard and he would slip, but you were right. He was catching him out there. And I remember when I got to train with Alfonso Gomez, he kind of showed me that move like for real. And I had always been like a keep it glued to my face and move
Yeah,
with it kind of guy.
yeah.
But when he started showing me that and how it could just, if you caught it at the right spot, it might hurt a little bit. But you're gonna de-impact so much of that power.
Oh yeah, oh
You
yeah.
know?
You go from taking the shot, being in the wheel well of the punch, like say if the punch was coming, it's an overhand that's coming like this. Now it like you stop it out here, and you remember Canelo doing like almost like a quarterback, like a D lineman coming around to sack a quarterback, and he's trying to throw the ball downfield, and he just so slightly pulls his arm, taps his arm backwards, and then now the ball goes like like 5 feet.
Right.
It's the same thing. He's interrupting the flight pattern of the punch. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
I felt like the big one on this fight was as Canelo's moved up in weight, his power has always held up. It's always impacted guys at some point, even if he doesn't stop them. Just his level of explosiveness has always played in, and I felt like on this guy, it just wasn't enough. Like he's not gonna physically be able to impact this guy. If they're gonna rematch, he's gonna have to outthink him.
Oh yeah, and see the frustrating thing about guys like Bivol and my good friend Lucien Bute is and even Andre Ward. It's very taxing to try to outthink these people, and a lot of times in human nature, you just throw in the towel, and that's what happened to Canelo. Like you saw him start to get frustrated, starting to roll his eyes, like shake his head, like throw his hand, put his hands down, like try to do the old Mexican, draw the line in the sand, like no, you come to me type thing. That's all frustration that like where he's tired of the cerebral warfare. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
that can happen with those kind of guys because not only is it a cerebral warfare, but they're still doing enough to cause instant action in the fight, like fighting in spots, like combination punching by Bivol was off the Richters, man. Like those like 4 and 5 punch combinations that he was getting through the guard, and then once he gets what he wants, he just gets offline and goes back to do whatever he wants. Now
All
the
speed.
ball's in Canelo's corner. Yeah.
All speed too. All speed, all straight. You know what I'm saying? Nothing big, wide. He's not winding up. It's just do 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 do, and then he gets out. You know what I'm saying? He
Yeah.
just resets. He's throwing all 5s and 6s. He's not throwing any fucking 10s. But
Yeah, yeah.
but he's doing that because he knows, like, I'm fast enough and long enough where if I keep it right here, he
Yeah.
can't get me back.
Exactly. And that takes a lot of discipline. That's what people don't understand. Because I've been in situations like, like as I got into being a main event fighter and everything, like I knew how to break a guy down for like the first 5 rounds or whatever. But then like me, I would start to get bored or off the game plan because I'm like, okay, if I got you broke down in the first 5 rounds, I'm just gonna try to get you out of here or whatever. But with him, it's like no, I'm gonna take everything that you give me. If you only give me a hip and a shoulder, I'm gonna take that hip and shoulder, and I'm not gonna go in any deeper. It's almost like what the it's funny because like I said, I watch a lot of war stuff. It's what the Russians did to Napoleon back in the First World War. It's scorched earth. It's like, okay, we're gonna allow you in, but then we're gonna take away all your supplies that are around you, your infantry and everything. And
Yeah.
now we're gonna watch you slowly die.
It's
And
death
that's
by 1,000 little cuts.
yeah.
It's death by 1,000 little cuts, man. He's not in a rush. That's what's so good. That was really what fucked me up about it. I was like, wow, he's really just doing it his pace. You can't fucking get this guy to rush.
Yeah.
Because Canelo was doing some slick shit too. I actually thought his defense was really good. There were some of those Bivol combinations that he was slipping and blocking, and I felt like the commentary was reacting more so than
Oh yeah.
Canelo.
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought Canelo's defense looked great, and there was rounds where he was moving forward and pushing him back. It didn't do it, bro. It didn't do it. The guy just doesn't. He doesn't get shook at all. Nothing wavers Bivol at all.
And you know what's great about this fight and is gonna make it a timeless classic is that the fact that like many people will say like, oh well, he finally met the right light heavyweight or the guy was too big and all this stuff. No, he got I won't say got a boxing lesson because Canelo actually did very well, but there was some cerebral warfare in there that he has
Perfect term.
never ever witnessed in his life. You know
That's
what
the
I'm saying?
perfect term.
And that's what happened. It had nothing to do with the size of being a light heavyweight or the strength and everything. Which I mean, all that plays in or whatever. Because I feel like Bivol is a jack of all trades. Like and also he has very sneaky power. Like those punches that were getting through. They were combination punches and everything, but you can tell that the pop on him, Canelo didn't like that. He didn't like being touched that way. Yeah.
No, I mean, and to be honest with you, I think the power did impact it. And maybe Bivol's not even the hardest puncher, but between Canelo not being able to impose himself physically, and then on top of that, I don't know if I've ever seen Canelo that puffy. I don't ever if I've
Oh
ever
yeah,
seen
man.
that.
He looked like Mr. Crab out there, man.
He
God,
was looking puffy, bro.
he
He
got
was
his spray on tan beat off of him, man.
Yeah, bro. He was looking puffy. He wasn't. There were times during the fight where he was not rushing to go at Bivol maybe the way he needed to, and I think the power was a factor. It's just Bivol knowing how to set it up and how to stay disciplined.
Yeah,
Canelo's like, what am I going to take to get inside? So then he
yeah,
starts doing let me see if I can get him to come to me, and Bivol's too smart for that. He'll just wait you
yeah,
out.
yeah. It was a classic game of I remember my corner Sabadine team or Nasser Navarone, John Tanny, Ray Woods. I remember coming up and guys saying, "Hey, don't give him any success. No success for the first 3 rounds or for this no success." And that's exactly what he was doing. Is scorched earth, like literally, like he was like, "Oh, got my points," and oh no, I'm not going to give you that. I'm not even going to stand here for you to block your shot. Like I'm gonna have you swing it air. You know what I'm saying? It was when you really break it down, man. It was such a beautiful thing. I could watch that fight like 30,000 times, man. And just find something else.
So, but bro, so you were a light heavyweight, right? You know how big these guys are. It's but 175, 168, those are like the trickiest weight classes. I know a lot of people say because it's guys that move like middleweights, punch like heavyweights. Do you think that Canelo's a light heavyweight? Or do you think that he finally just met a bad boy that just had his number last night?
I think that much like Sugar Ray Leonard and the Big Four guys and everything, I think that Canelo can fight anywhere between 154 to light heavyweight. You know what I'm saying? And even the right cruiserweight if he matches the right guy. You know what I'm saying? But I just think that being a jack of all trades with Dmitry Bivol, he can do everything. He can box. He can, he can bang. But the main thing is that by cerebral and strategic things, he's not going to allow you to do what you want to do. And I think that there's only one other time that I saw Canelo be that frustrated, and it was and people are going to get me wrong, but if you go back and look at it, it's the same thing. It was against Austin Trout and maybe against Laura.
Yep.
But then what happened was the other tricks that that Canelo did, he ended up making them fight his fight. You see what I'm saying? But with Bivol, it was like, okay, I see that you got a little bag of tricks. I'm gonna make you fight my fight. And he's like, no, I'm just gonna stand here and look at you.
And I think that's always what gets fucked up in a fight like this, where it is such a big upset. Like, it's hard for people not to look at this fight only from Canelo's perspective, in a sense, like how this is good for Canelo, how this is bad for Canelo, that it's a off night, or that whatever that narrative is. And in a lot of ways, it feels like this is just a tribute to Bivol, because to me, I still match Canelo with anybody else in my head. And I got him the favorite. I mean, even against Joe Smith, against Artur Beterbiev, all these bigger light heavyweights, they're more hittable than Bivol. Yeah. So I still give Canelo the chance to create those openings and have more impact in that way. Whereas Bivol, he's just one of those guys where on a style level, he's just a handful, bro, because he just wins rounds. I can't even remember, before this fight, I don't even remember seeing him lose that many rounds. Like, he's a machine.
Oh, he's a constant machine. He really impressed me when he fought against Joe Smith. That's when I really was like, you know what? But you know who's always been singing about Bivol the whole time? Like, I run into him in traffic and everything. Andre Ward. Andre was like, dude, that's the next dude. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, man, he's kind of small though, isn't he, for light heavyweight? He goes, OG, that's the dude. I'm like, okay. And then I started watching him more, and I'm like, oh man, he has that Russian lead arm where like he's doing the whole, like.
And that up jab is tricky, bro, because you're not necessarily expecting that he's gonna shoot it off the hip so low. Like, he's shooting that shit from his knee sometimes, but it's quick.
Yeah. And going back to Lucien Boutte, like, they both do the lead, the East Euro lead arm like movement and everything, right?
Dropping it down and shit.
The slight movement, it's hard to explain the slight movement to where I'm throwing a jab, I'm in front of you, and then the moment that you try to counter the jab or even move towards me or whatever, or even move away from me, I'm slightly gonna move in another way that's gonna keep me in that same position. You know what I'm saying? So yep. I'm always gonna be in arm reach of you so I can hit you with anything I want. But at the same time, I'm offline where you can't return anything because I'm at a different angle at every time. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of fun. It's almost like a smothering pressure style without pressuring. And I think Canelo was feeling that. He was kind of like, and then at times Canelo would be like, okay, maybe I'm tripping. He's out of range. He's not going to hit me. I'm going to drop my arms, kind of relax and everything. And then people would just hit him with a 3-punch combination. Bop, 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 bop. And he'd be like, oh man, this guy can reach. So it's right. Like, it's the optical illusions that he was playing too,
And maybe even like those like, I don't even know how to call it, but like those pockets of respect that guys give where he can kind of walk around the ring and do it. Bivol would disrupt all of that.
Yeah.
He's no like, no time to rest. And then just because I do that, you think I'm going to follow you to the ropes?
Yeah. And I, in my last pro fight against Alexander Grovic, how do you say his last name? I forgot.
I think it's Vodzik, but I could
No,
be wrong.
Volzic, yeah. Alexander Volzic. He was doing that. He was doing the whole because nothing he was doing was really hurting me. It was like being at a picnic down south and a whole bunch of gnats just always in your face. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's how Canelo was feeling too. And I know exactly how he was feeling with that. It's very frustrating, and it's almost like you don't get it's almost drowning in a wading pool. You know what I'm saying? You're like, dude, the water's not that high, but I can't get my head above water. You know what I'm saying? It's like that kind of thing.
Yeah. It was an incredible performance, bro. So, I mean, they're going to do this rematch, right?
Yeah, they got to. I think, but you know what's really crazy? Now that Bivol cut the head off the Giant and everything, there's nothing else really for him to do but control the light heavyweight division. Like I don't see the Charlos and Earl Spence and all these guys trying to fight him. I think that continues with Canelo still. You know what I'm saying? Almost in a De La Hoya fashion. Like just because he loses one time doesn't mean that he's not the cash cow of the sport still. You know.
How do you see a rematch playing out? And if you're Canelo, what are you doing different?
If I'm Canelo, I gotta use more aggressive head movement and come at him. I have to cut off half the ring and maybe put him in a corner of the boxing ring for like 80% of the time. You can't give a guy like Bivol free space in center ring, which he's gonna be fighting like hell to make sure that he maintains that free space. That's why he's so good on that probing jab. That all that is making sure that he's controlling the fight. You know,
yeah, maintaining that bubble around him.
Yeah. But with Canelo, he's gotta instead of being in a square, he's got to be in a rectangle, draw a half line, and then in that half line, he's got to walk him to one of those four corners. And when he's in that corner, that's when he has a fighting spots the most. That's what I would do. And then after I get those points, then I'm gonna kill time with what I call eye candy. I'm gonna, shake a couple jabs at him, do a whole bunch of, like Mexican, celebrating and everything. Pretty much, he has to do to Bivol what Sugar Ray Leonard did to Duran the second fight.
I think a big part of the strategy has to be, like you said, you can't give Bivol that space, that room. And that's a challenge because he creates that himself. You know what I'm saying? He creates it with that jab and the discipline. But I feel like if Canelo can keep the foot pressure on him, but he's going to have to do something that he hasn't done a lot of, right? Canelo's always, even, when he's the bigger guy, he keeps it at an arm's length as well. So in my mind, I see Canelo having to really like get shoulder to shoulder with him and make it physical and just smother the fight altogether.
Oh yeah, he has a smother.
But he's never really been one to do that. He has always kind of kept it at his own distance. So I think he's just going to have to make the whole thing, as uncomfortable as he can, kind of give him that Maidana treatment and just shove him around, you know what I mean, as much as he can. Because if not, I just feel like Bivol can do exactly what he did. And, over and over every round, like we said, the discipline's crazy.
And I think in the second fight, the thing that can be dangerous also is that now Bivol knows that he has to do certain things, right? He has to take away he has to limit the real estate and all that stuff. Now Bivol is going to walk him into bigger power shots. You see what I'm saying? And that can mean Canelo getting stopped. Now, let me ask you this, with that being said. Have you ever seen Canelo in a war? Even in the earlier years?
The second Golovkin fight. I would say that's
Golovkin.
One.
I think maybe Alfonso Gomez fight was the last war I've seen him in or whatever. Canelo doesn't really like to trade with people. A lot of people don't realize that. But he likes hitting you. But if there's ever a point where it's like, oh, it's a firefight, Canelo don't like that. And I don't blame him because I teach people all the time. A firefight means that the fight's 50-50. That means that at any time you can hit me with something that I don't see and like, never get in a firefight. You know what I'm saying? Always control the terms of the fight. So I applaud him for doing that, but I noticed that he doesn't like doing that. So if he ends up doing that in the second fight, it could end bad for him and everything. And another thing that people don't realize, and this is me coming, this is the cross trainer football Otis talking. Canelo is a limited athlete. A lot of people don't see that, but I see it. The short legs, the thick ankles, like he's not very fleet on his feet. Now, there's only been a couple people that can take advantage of that, like I think Laura took advantage of it a little bit. Mayweather definitely took advantage of it, and Bivol took advantage of it. Like those slight movements and stuff, those are because Canelo's so foot heavy that once he attacks you straight on, now you move laterally just a little bit, or you slightly, step out of the way. It makes it harder for his athletic ability to pick up and redirect. You know what I'm saying?
He got good feet, but he doesn't have great feet. Like he has pretty much great everything else, but the feet, the foot speed part of it is the one thing where he's like not great.
Yeah.
For somebody with great footwork. I mean, like when he fought Danny Jacobs, he was bouncing around the ring doing it. So like he can do that. But if you're a guy that's your thing, he's gonna have a hard time keeping up with you.
Exactly. And what are the guys where it was their thing? Laura, it was his thing. Yep. Mayweather, it was his thing. Bivol, movement is his thing. So now you're in trouble, and those are the fights where he was in trouble, and that's the correlation. Movement is a correlation for him, but not like movement like, oh, I'm just gonna float around the ring for no reason. It's like strategic movement, like step in and replace like situations, like, oh, you take 2 steps, I take 2 steps in another direction, not straight back, not at you. You know what I'm saying? So is that kind of chess match for him? But yeah, I don't see him winning the second bout, and I see maybe him getting stopped.
Really? So you think Bivol just has his number, and he's not going to be able to change the tone of the second one?
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty crazy, bro. So let's play that out for a sec. He loses the second fight, right? What is the Canelo era over? Does he just move back down and keep doing what he's been doing? And we just, you know what I'm saying? How do you see that playing out?
If he loses the second fight, I think that he can find a home at 160. He can find a home at 160 and make guys from 68 come there, or guys from 54 come there, like Errol Spence and stuff. If I was his manager or PR guy, I would say, hey, we're gonna build this this second Bivol fight up, like maybe have it on in September 24th, which is the not Mexican Independence Day, but Mexican National Day or whatever, right? And build it up, have that fight, win, lose, or draw. I go, hey, look, we've already made history. We've already done the multiple weight classes. Let's make 160 our home, a weight that we don't got to weight drain ourselves to get to. It's a weight that we can control. That now you got Errol Spence has to come up and get bigger to fight at, and now my guy Benavidez has to come down and be weight drained to be at. So now it's also a strategy advantage for us too, and it's a classic weight class. So I think that he has, if he loses the Bivol the second time, that he has probably about 3 more fights at 160 that can be made that are paramount social media fights.
I think personally, and I could be wrong about this, but I feel like he's thick enough now and his body's settled into these bigger weight classes enough where I don't see him going back down to 160. Now I could be wrong about that, but I just think that he's looking a little too thick for that, bro. I think it would take something out of him to get down to that. I think he's gonna, if he win, lose, or draw to Bivol, I think he's probably gonna go back down to 168, where he's got every belt, he's got all the control, he's got all the leverage. Anybody at that weight is gonna have to go through him to get to a title. So he's back to being the A side. Even if he fights Benavidez, it's like, what? You're fighting me for all 4 belts. So
yeah,
who has the leverage? You know what I'm saying? So I think 168 is in his future, and then, he's already fought guys at that weight. He knows the power. So if he wants to fight Andrade, if he wants to do the third Triple G fight, if he wants to fight Charlo, he can ask those guys to move up.
Well, they got him listed at what, 5'8"?
Yeah.
He's 5'6", maybe. I've been by Canelo several times. Have you ever stood next to Canelo?
No.
He's 5'6", maybe. So what's going to happen to him if he stays at 168 is the same thing that happened to Vinny Pazienza when he fought Roy Jones. One of these youngsters are going to come up there, and they're going to be physically bigger, physically taller, more athletically apt, and they're going to make him look like Vinny Paz against Roy Jones, and that's going to be his warrior's death. You know what I'm saying? So I'm telling you, like 160 is not only the place that he needs to be. He makes that weight easier. I know that he's bulked up a little bit, put on some muscle so he can handle these super middleweights and light heavyweight guys. But if he wants a little bit more longevity, if he wants to max out that matchroom the zone contract, he better go to 160. If he goes to 168, like how we said at the top of this program, is that weight class that is very deceptive because you got guys that punch like heavyweights, but they move like middleweights. You know what I'm saying? 68 and 75, man. I used to be, man, 68 is a very scary weight class. You can run into anything at 68, bro. You know what I'm saying? You can run into a young Chad Dawson, or you can run into one of these, what's my man's name? He's quietly taking everybody else. Two guys, actually. Jamie, whatever his name, the Mexican guy.
Jaime
and
Munguia.
then you got what's that?
Jaime Munguia.
Yeah, Jaime Munguia. And then you got the other guy that Golden Boy's raising that's under everybody's radar, man, that 75 and 68 starts with a Z.
Gilberto Ramirez. Zurdo Ramirez.
Yeah, Zurdo. Yeah, Zurdo. Yeah. That guy's under everybody's radar. Nobody's talking about this guy. Man, have you seen him fight?
I've been watching him for like 10 years, bro. I saw him when he was, young.
That guy's a world beater, man.
He's awesome. He just gets hit too easy. Like anytime I've ever seen him, there's always like a weird moment where he gets hurt in a fight he's dominating. And I think that's like maybe part of why he hasn't progressed in the same way. Because I remember I saw him fight, I want to say like 2013 was the first time I saw him. And it was like a pay-per-view undercard. And then I saw him fight Arthur Abraham. And he completely dominated the fight, but there was like 2 or 3 weird moments where it's like you're dominating the fight and you're getting caught. You know what I mean? So I think that's maybe, but he's right in the mix, bro. I mean, him and Canelo, two Mexican guys, they're gonna sell the shit out of that. That's a fight I would love to see. What
about him and Jamie? Him and Jamie.
The thing is, Munguia's still, I think, at middleweight. No, I'm pretty sure he's still fighting at 160.
Yeah, he's 160, but I'm like, he's a big middleweight, so maybe he goes up. But getting back to what you said about Canelo, 160 is the spot because it's also the midway station for all those other guys. Like he can't make the Charlo fights and all those kind of things by having these guys go up to 75. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Or even 68 in some fashion. You know what I'm saying? So I think that just 160 means that he makes a lot of, but who knows?Maybe Canelo at this point in time, I mean, what does he got? He got over 60 something fights now. So maybe he's tired of fighting. Maybe he only has this rematch with Dmitry.
I mean, look, bro, he was doing interviews this week where he was like, I think I got like 5-6 more years in me. So I just think that I think he's got plenty of juice. I think he got caught, but the wrong guy. The Bivol is just the right guy at the wrong time.
Yeah, maybe I'm all I know is, man, after after you get about 40 or so some fights, man.
Well, and I looked it up this morning, bro. He's 57-2-2.
Yeah, yeah. After you, but right about you know, 45 fights, 50 fights. Even Chris Bird, James Toney, and those guys started being like, ah, man, like, it becomes taxing. I look back, man, and I really look at this stuff, and I'm like, dude, like, I could have really, if I had, if the young Otis had the older Otis as a PR guy, I would have maximized everything in 25 fights.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I know, no boxing fan wants to hear this or whatever, but I think that the correlation and, getting back to all the other stuff that we're talking about, and also I was a little different. I had to play in the NFL also in football since I was 6. So, but the correlation between how many contests you have left in your body and what these guys are doing as far as longevity of their careers, and even stuff that I'm finding now from reading over this last week about like how blood clots and everything are affecting older athletes. Like there has to be some correlation to the damage and the trauma that your body's going through. So a lot of these guys need to maximize what they're doing so they can enjoy their splendor years. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Are you of the opinion that Canelo's starting to come up on that wall?
Yes. Yes. Last night was a definite show of that, because not only was he the cerebral fight process, which you can't control that. I think that Canelo never, ever, 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 ever. All the years I've been watching Canelo since the way back. I've watched him from day one, but going back to 2005 all the way up to the first fight with Gomez, and then what's my man's name that used to be a big time puncher, Centron, and all those guys. Canelo never wants a cerebral matchup, man, because it frustrates him. He's like one of those guys that feels like, you know what, like, okay, we've danced enough, let's get to war. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's draw the sand, the line in the sand, and go to war.
Right. Well,
And
he
he couldn't
takes his
get that
notes.
last night.
He takes
Yeah,
his notes. He sees what he needs to see, and then once he does that, he's like, "All right, bet, let's go." And then
yeah,
he wants to put the foot on the gas. He wants to up that pace. He wants to make you go through your gears to see
yeah,
if you can keep up. And usually they can't.
yeah,
And they've all could, man. That was kind of what was special about it.
yeah.
There was
So with that being said, if he has that matchup again and he gets outweighted again, I think that is going to make him be like, you know what, you guys can have it. Like I got, all these sports cars, these villas to live in, and all these chicks love my pale skin. So let me.
But who knows, bro? I mean, maybe he's Manny Pacquiao. Maybe a loss is like, yeah, I'm still a great fighter. I'll beat that guy.
Yeah,
We'll see. Is he Manny Pacquiao? Is he Bernard Hopkins? Is he one of these guys where a loss is not the end of the world because he's such a legend and he still has that belief, regardless.
what do you do if you're him? Like, if could you walk away with those kind of with that kind of money on the table for fights? Like, or could you see, like, I could see myself walking away and then them calling me a year later going, "Hey man, we got this fight, OG, $50 million."
I think he
And
should do the Golovkin rematch now. I think he should do it now because it's not going to be as interesting if they wait too much longer. And now there's almost better marketing because he's coming off the loss. Because now people are going to have Golovkin looked good against Murata. Canelo just lost. Maybe this is more 50-50 than we had thought. This isn't so A side, B side now. So then if he beats Golovkin, he's got that momentum going into a rematch with Bivol. And then the result almost matters less because he's already gotten the win in between. So we know, like, okay, he's still Canelo. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And I think I've been saying all along, I think the Triple G is washed. I think that shit is overplayed. I'm not saying
oh
he's
yeah,
the same guy, but he's not washed up by any means. He's still got plenty of juice. So I think get the Golovkin rematch, do it at 160 or 168, or do a catch weight. Really, who cares? But just do that fight. put that to bed finally after 5 years or whatever. And then the Bivol fight looks a whole lot different. And then once you have the Bivol fight, just move back down and wait. Pick one, but just move back down and clear it out. That's what I would think he should do. But
Yeah.
I'm guessing they're going to do the Bivol fight before the Triple G fight, which I think it's fair because Bivol won, so it's like he should be able to get all those shots to some extent.
Before GGG, man, this guy's gonna this guy's gonna have a George Jefferson haircut and wearing reading glasses by the time he gets the Canelo fight, man.
I know, dude. It sucks. I feel bad. That was like one of the first things I thought when they read the decision was like, Golovkin. Poor Golovkin, dude. He's been doing it their way for so long and it just never pays off.
Yeah. He had to be pissed. He probably threw something at the TV that night, man.
He probably threw the TV, bro. You know what I'm saying? Fuck.
Yeah.
Dude. I feel for him, bro.